Finding bass in the winter can be really difficult, but catching them can be real easy when you got the right baits at the right times. So I've narrowed it down to 4 wintertime baits that I'll have tied on from now until February.
I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
Probably my #1 bait in the winter is a minnow style bait on a jig head. This is something I use more than anything. You can vary your size on it. I use a Super Fluke Junior bait. You want a small minnow style bait, natural colors, with just a jig head. The key with the jig head, this is a greenfish tackle jig head, you want a 90-degree hook tie. What that does is when you drop your bait vertical and hold it, your bait stays flat. It doesn't drop tail down. It's sitting horizontal in the water column, which is essential for getting the fish to eat that minnow style bait. So this bait, you can throw it at fish when you see them with your front looking sonar. You can drop it when you see them with your 2D. And the presentation with this bait is real key. When you see fish on your electronics, you drop down and you stop the bait above the fish. And just with gentle shakes of your rod, fish will actually come up and look at it, stare at it for a second, and then they'll eat it. And weight-wise, you can vary from an 1/8 all the way up to a 1/2 ounce. I've used a 1/2 ounce when the fish are really deep and I have to get it down there real quick when they're moving fast. But my general go-to size is right around a 1/4 ounce. Sometimes I'll go up to a 3/8, but a 1/4 ounce is a great size to start with. Super Fluke Junior, just a minnow style presentation, because that's what they're eating, is shad out there deep. Another bait you have to have tied on in the winter is a drop shot. So typical #2, #4, nose hook style hook, 3/8 ounce drop shot weight. I keep it pretty simple. A drop shot's great for dropping on those fish. The minnow style bait will catch them a lot when they're suspended, or it'll come up and eat it. But sometimes those fish just want you to drop your bait all the way to the bottom and let that weight sit on the bottom and just shake the drop shot. Sometimes this will catch fish that the minnow style bait won't. So always have a drop shot tied on. The one difference in the winter, this is a Zoom Z-drop worm. I like the short, kind of stubby worms in the winter. I don't use the long, you know, like the 6-inch finesse style worms. I use the stubby, like Z-drop, or even I've used that Super Fluke Junior some. You want a minnow style bait, because that's what most of the fish are eating out there is shad. So this bait imitates shad really well, just a natural color. This is greeny weeny. It's got a lot of purple in it. It just looks like a shad out there deep. And you can vary with colors, but the stubby baits seem to work better in the winter, especially nose hooked like this. And a drop shot's just kind of a staple bait. Catches a bunch of spotted bass. You can catch a big largemouth on it too, but I always have it tied on a 6 to 8 pound Yo-Zuri fluorocarbon. The next bait, I've done a lot of videos on this. I don't go anywhere without Shakey Head tied on. The one difference is in the winter, I like a bigger Shakey Head. We're talking 1/4 to 3/8 ounce. I still like the traditional ball head style, a Zoom trick worm, but the reason I like a Shakey Head, I've seen a ton of times in the winter where that minnow bait, they won't come up and eat it. The drop shot, you'll drop it down and they'll stare at it, but the Shakey Head gets down there on the bottom. Maybe these fish are looking for crawfish, I don't know what it is, but they like to suck that bait off the bottom. And I actually fish this Shakey Head vertical quite often. I use it to drop the fish, let it go all the way to the bottom. If you can get the fish to chase it down and just kind of drag it as you drift, this bait will catch a lot of wintertime deep fish, especially spotted bass, when they get out on the bottom in 20 to 50 foot of water. This is a great bait for it. And I like the heavy jig head. Like I said, you want at least a 1/4 ounce up to 3/8 ounce to drop it down on finesse gear in the winter. The last bait I always have tied on in the winter is a jigging spoon. This bait is kind of like my sniper bait in the winter. You know, in the summertime when fish are schooling, you have like a topwater, like a Yo-Zuri pencil on for when they come up, you can throw and land on. Well, in the winter, I keep this jigging spoon on for kind of the same type scenario, but it's when I see them on my electronics. Let's say I catch one on the Shakey Head or the drop shot, and all of a sudden 40 fish show up on the graph. You know, it looks like spaghetti on the graph, they're rising up. Briggs, you're killing me. This jigging spoon is the perfect application for that. I'll drop it down, I can shoot it down, you know, 40 feet really, really fast, get it into that school. Generally, when it falls through, it'll never make it to the bottom. You can catch one of those fish real quick, crank them up fast on casting gear, get your bait back in the water and catch another one. You got one single hook, you can unhook them quick, you don't have to get a new worm out. This is my bait to put fish in the boat really quick when you run into those crazy, almost deep water schooling situations. But it is one of my favorite ways to catch them too. It's really, really fun when they get fired up. You'll be backlashing bait casts, things like that. But use a monofilament line with the jigging spoon because it'll increase your hookup ratio and it'll get a lot more fish in the boat. Those 4 baits are my go-to deep water baits in the winter, specifically targeting spotted bass, but you'll catch a lot of largemouth too when they get out there together deep. But that's for 30 plus feet of water, 25 plus feet of water where the fish really group up in those wintertime months. It can be cold and miserable fishing, but when you find them, it can be some of the best days you'll have the entire year.